Jake Morgan wasn't looking for anything unusual that late September evening. Driving home through the winding back roads of rural Oregon, all he wanted was a quiet weekend at his mother's old farmhouse. The air smelled like dust and dry leaves, and golden light spilled over the hills. But as he rounded a bend, his headlights caught something low to the ground, something spotted, trembling on the side of the road. First, he thought it was a dog. Then he saw the wild eyes. It was a baby jaguar, thin, hurt, and barely able to stand. Blood was matted along her side, and her legs shook with exhaustion. Jake hit the brakes so hard his seatbelt snapped him back. He climbed out, slowly, heart racing, unsure what he was walking toward. But the little creature didn't run. She just stood there, watching him with eyes full of pain, and something else he couldn't explain. Not fear. Not entirely. Maybe trust. He wrapped her in a blanket from the back seat and gently placed her in his trunk. Unsure if she'd even survive the ride. He didn't think twice. He didn't call animal control. Something in that moment told him she was his responsibility now. He named her Luna that same night, while she lay quietly on a towel in his small guest room, barely breathing, her body rising and falling like a flickering flame. He stayed awake beside her, watching, listening, hoping. Jake spent the following weeks learning everything he could about big cats. He reached out to sanctuaries, wildlife centers, none of which were equipped or willing to take her. Some even warned him that what he was doing was illegal, but he kept her anyway. He fed her, he sat with her, and slowly, day by day, Luna began to heal. She started to follow him from room to room. She'd rest her head on his knee while he worked on his laptop. They formed a bond that felt ancient, like two souls that had always been meant to find each other. 2 years passed. Luna was no longer a fragile cub. She was strong, sleek, and surprisingly gentle. People couldn't believe it when Jake told them he shared his home with a jaguar. He'd laugh it off, call her his roommate with claws. But deep down, he knew the connection was more than just unusual, it was sacred. And then, just when life seemed to settle into a strange new normal, Luna changed. She grew distant, restless. She stopped eating. She stayed hidden in corners, her eyes wary, her body tense. Jake feared she was sick. But what he didn't know, what he never could have guessed, was that Luna was preparing for something that would change both their lives forever. The house was quiet that morning. Too quiet. Jake woke up with a strange knot in his stomach. The kind of unease you can't explain, only feel. The usual sounds of Luna stretching or padding around the kitchen were absent. He called her name softly, then louder, but no response came. Panic stirred in his chest. Luna never ignored him. He checked every room, then paused near the basement door. It was cracked open. A sound reached him, soft, unfamiliar, like tiny cries. He rushed down the stairs, heart hammering, unsure of what he'd find. In the far corner of the basement, tucked into a pile of old blankets and laundry, was Luna. Her eyes met his, calm but exhausted. She was lying on her side, breathing heavily, and nestled against her belly were 3 tiny cubs, their coats already spotted with the same golden pattern that covered their mother. Jake froze, completely overwhelmed by the sight. The world slowed down. He couldn't speak, could barely breathe. 3 new lives had entered his world without warning. He dropped to his knees, watching the cubs squirm and nuzzle against Luna. The room smelled faintly of earth and fur. It was surreal, beautiful, and terrifying all at once. Luna, the wild animal he had rescued on a whim, had become a mother. And somehow, she had chosen his home, his basement, as the place to bring her babies into the world. He reached out and Luna didn't flinch. She blinked slowly, as if to say, "It's okay." Jake spent the next few hours sitting on the cold basement floor, just watching them. Each cub was different. One was bold, already trying to climb over its siblings. Another was smaller, more cautious. The third, the only female, seemed to watch Jake with quiet curiosity, her little nose twitching. Jake whispered names under his breath. Leo, for the brave one. Milo, for the shy one. And Daisy, for the bright-eyed girl. Names felt like the only thing he could give them in that moment. Later, He called Dr. Aaron Fields, the local vet who had once treated Luna when she cut her paw on broken glass. Aaron didn't even hesitate. He came within the hour. After a full checkup, he looked at Jake and said, "They're healthy, and she trusts you completely. That's rare, Jake. You've built something here most people will never understand." That night, Jake barely slept. He sat on the couch, the old green one that had belonged to his grandfather, listening to the soft breathing from downstairs. His life had changed again, first with Luna, now with her cubs. And though he didn't know what came next, deep down, he felt something he hadn't in years: purpose. But just as peace began to settle in, a shadow from Luna's past was about to return. 3 days after the cubs were born, Jake was finally adjusting to the rhythm of their new life. Feedings every few hours, Luna's watchful gaze never far, and the quiet hum of the house now filled with soft growls and mews. He was exhausted, but deeply at peace. The kind of peace that comes when you feel you're exactly where you're meant to be. Then came the knock. It was early afternoon. The sun filtered through the living room windows, casting soft shadows on the couch where Jake had just dozed off with Daisy curled at his feet. The knock came again, firm, slow, deliberate. Jake stood quickly, careful not to wake Luna, who was half asleep beside the cubs. He opened the door to find Frank Henderson, his neighbor from 2 miles down the road. An old man with a weathered face, faded flannel shirt, and eyes that had seen too much. "Morning," Frank said, his tone flat. "You got a big cat in there?" Jake's stomach tightened. "What makes you say that?" "Tracks," Frank replied, pointing to the soft earth near the porch. "Big ones, and I've seen her before. Not lately, but years ago. I thought she was long gone." He paused, narrowing his eyes. "That's not just any jaguar, son. That cat's got history." Jake tried to deflect, but Frank didn't back down. He asked to come in, and reluctantly, Jake let him. As they stepped into the living room, Luna stood up slowly, placing herself between the cubs and Frank. She didn't growl, but her eyes didn't leave him for a second. Frank took off his hat, stared at her, and let out a quiet breath. "I knew it," he muttered. "That's her. I saw her mother 15 years ago, down near the river. Thought I shot her, but I didn't. She disappeared after that." Jake was stunned. "You hunted her family?" Frank didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked over to the window, his voice low. "Not proud of those days. Things were different. But if she's here and now with cubs, someone else might come looking. Word gets around fast in these parts. She's not safe here, Jake. None of you are." Jake felt the weight of it settle on his shoulders. Until now, Luna and the cubs had been a secret, a miracle he could hold close. But now, the world outside was starting to notice, and the line between safety and danger was beginning to blur. And as night fell over the quiet Oregon hills, Luna stood at the window, her ears twitching at something distant, something approaching. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. Every creak in the house felt louder. Every gust of wind against the windows made him flinch. Luna was restless too. Her ears twitched constantly, her eyes scanning every shadow. The cubs slept soundly, curled beside her, unaware of the silent fear filling the room. Jake sat on the couch, staring at the dark tree-line just beyond the porch. Something was out there. He could feel it. The next morning brought no relief. Tracks, fresh ones, circled the house. Bigger than Luna's. Boots, at least 2 different sets. Jake crouched near them, heart racing. Someone had been watching the house overnight. They hadn't tried to come inside, but they didn't need to. Their message was clear: "We know." He called Dr. Aaron. The vet's voice was calm, but concerned. "Jake, if word's out that you're housing a wild jaguar, and now her cubs, there could be more than curiosity coming your way. People panic. They act fast. Wildlife authorities, private hunters. You need to think about moving them." "Move them where?" Jake snapped, pacing the porch. "This is her home now. It's their home." "I know," Aaron said gently. But it may not be safe much longer. Later that day, Jake tried to distract himself by working in the shed. That's when he found something that made his blood run cold. A small metal tag nailed to a fence post near the tree line. It wasn't there the day before. Black letters etched into the surface read, "Property under observation. Wildlife Unit 12. Government issued. No contact number. No warning. Just a quiet threat nailed into the wood." When he showed it to Frank, the old man cursed under his breath. "That's not standard. That's private. Likely contracted out, maybe even poachers trying to look official. I've seen this before years back. Someone's watching her, and it ain't for science." Luna seemed to know something was happening. That night, she didn't sleep. She paced the house, checking every room, returning to her cubs over and over again. Jake locked every door and sat with his grandfather's old shotgun resting across his lap, something he never thought he'd have to use. Just past midnight, a distant sound echoed from the woods. Not an animal, not the wind, a branch cracking under the weight of something heavy. Jake stood. Luna froze, and outside, just beyond the trees, a flashlight flickered once, then disappeared. By the next morning, Jake knew something had changed in Luna. She was no longer just protective. She was on edge, her movements sharp, her body tense like a coiled spring. The cubs were unusually quiet, as if sensing her unease. Jake didn't tell his mother what was happening. He didn't want to worry her, but inside he felt the pressure mounting. They were being hunted, and he knew it. He installed motion-activated cameras around the property. That night, the footage confirmed his worst fear. Two men, both in camouflage, had approached the barn. One of them carried a tranquilizer rifle. The other wore a patch on his jacket with a logo Jake didn't recognize, something private, not federal. They didn't try to break in. They just watched. Then they disappeared into the woods again, like ghosts. Jake sat on the floor of the nursery room, watching Luna breathe. Her eyes locked onto his, and for the first time he saw fear in them. Not for herself, but for her babies. He whispered, "I won't let them take you. Any of you." But deep down, he didn't know how much longer he could keep that promise. He called Aaron again, voice low and urgent. "They're here. Not just watching, getting closer. Armed. I think they're planning something." Aaron hesitated, then said something Jake didn't expect. "There's a place. Private wildlife preserve. Off the grid. Protected land. No press, no public. Just animals and people who care. I know someone who runs it. If we move Luna and the cubs, they might have a real shot at safety." Jake wanted to believe that, but the thought of moving Luna terrified him. What if she didn't trust the others? What if the move caused her to panic? What if they lost each other in the process? That night, the silence was broken again, this time by the sound of breaking glass. The living room window. Jake raced in, shotgun in hand, to find a rock lying on the rug, shattered glass around it. No note, just the rock, with red paint smeared across it in the shape of an X. Luna leapt onto the couch, standing over her cubs, growling deep and low. Jake felt a cold wave pass through him. This wasn't just a warning. It was a message, "You're out of time." He looked down at the cubs huddled together, then back at Luna. Her gaze met his, unwavering, filled with something he hadn't seen before. Resolve. And that's when Jake realized they weren't going to run. Not yet. Jake didn't sleep that night. He sat in the hallway outside the nursery door with the shotgun resting across his knees, eyes locked on the broken window in the living room. The wind had shifted. The air smelled of pine smoke and something metallic. It was the kind of night that wrapped around your chest and didn't let go. Luna stayed close to the cubs, growling low every time a branch snapped outside. At dawn, Jake made a decision. No more waiting. No more hiding. He drove into town to meet Aaron at the back of the veterinary clinic. They spoke in whispers, maps spread out over a metal table. The preserve Aaron mentioned was 3 hours north, near an old logging road now overgrown and rarely used. It was fenced, secured, and completely off-limits to the public. "If we move fast, we can get them there before nightfall," Aaron said. But we have to do it tomorrow. After that, I can't guarantee anything. Jake nodded, but his gut twisted. He hated the idea of leaving the only place Luna had ever known as home. And he hated even more the thought that something was forcing them out. Before leaving, Aaron handed him a small black device. "Tracker," he explained, "for her collar, just in case you get separated." When Jake returned home, something was wrong. Luna wasn't in the house. He panicked, racing room to room, calling her name. He found her near the treeline, standing completely still. She was staring at a fresh set of tire tracks, deep, aggressive, not from any local farm truck. And beside them, boot prints, dozens. They weren't just watching anymore. They were preparing to move in. That night, Jake reinforced every door and window. He moved the cubs into the basement with blankets, food, and soft lighting. Luna refused to leave their side. She stood guard at the foot of the stairs like a statue carved in gold and fury. Jake sat on the top step, shotgun ready, phone beside him with Aaron on speed dial. At 3:17 a.m., the power went out. Complete silence followed. No hum from the refrigerator, no click of the heater, just stillness, and then the faint crunch of footsteps outside on gravel. Jake's pulse pounded in his ears. He moved to the living room window, heart racing, and peeked through the curtain. 3 figures, flashlights off, walking straight toward the house. He backed away slowly, then whispered down the stairs, "Luna, it's happening." And below, in the shadows, Luna lifted her head, eyes glowing, breath steady, as if she'd been waiting for this moment all along. The first sound was the creak of the front porch boards. Jake held his breath, gripping the shotgun tighter. He crouched behind the living room wall, heart pounding, barely blinking. Moonlight cut across the floor through the shattered window. Then came the jingle of a lockpick. They weren't just snooping this time, they were coming in. The door burst open with a sharp crack. 2 men entered, dressed in dark tactical gear, flashlights clipped to their chests. Jake couldn't see their faces, but their movements were practiced, professional. Behind them, a third man waited on the porch, holding a long case, probably for the tranquilizer gun. Jake had seconds to decide, fire a warning shot or wait. He chose neither. Instead, he whispered one word down the basement stairs, "Now!" In a blur of muscle and instinct, Luna charged. She launched from the shadows of the hallway with terrifying precision, her roar tearing through the silence like thunder. The first man fell instantly, slammed against the wall, flashlight skittering across the floor. The second stumbled backward, screaming, trying to lift his weapon, but Luna was faster. Her claws caught his vest, dragging him down like prey. Jake rushed forward, grabbing the gun from the floor, pointing it at the third man outside. "Leave," Jake shouted, voice shaking but firm. "You take one more step and I swear." But the man didn't move. He just stared, then slowly raised his hands. "You don't know what she is," he said coldly. "You think you saved her, but she's part of something bigger. You're in over your head." "I don't care," Jake replied. "She's my family." The man turned and disappeared into the dark, leaving the other 2 writhing on the floor. Jake dragged them outside, heart racing, blood pounding in his ears. Luna stood at the doorway, her chest heaving, eyes still locked on the trees as if expecting more. Jake collapsed on the porch steps, gun across his lap. Luna came and sat beside him, her body pressed against his. For a long moment, they just breathed together, 2 survivors side by side. But Jake knew it wasn't over. The message was clear now. They weren't after Luna because she was a threat. They were after her because of who she was. Something in her blood, her lineage, her past. And whatever they wanted, they weren't going to stop until they had it. In the distance, beyond the hills, the sound of a helicopter began to rise. The helicopter circled for nearly an hour before finally disappearing beyond the ridge. Jake hadn't moved from the porch. His hands were still trembling. Luna remained at his side, tense but still. Her eyes, normally golden and warm, had gone dark, distant. like she was listening for something only she could hear. Inside, the cubs were quiet. Too quiet. Jake went down to check on them and found all three pressed against one another in the corner of the basement. Eyes wide, ears twitching. He crouched down, whispering their names. Leo, Milo, Daisy, his voice low, steady. "It's okay. You're safe. I've got you." Later that morning, Dr. Aaron arrived in an unmarked SUV. He didn't ask what had happened. The broken window, the claw marks on the walls, the blood near the door told him everything. Instead, he placed a thick folder on Jake's kitchen table. "You need to read this," he said. "It's about Luna, about where she came from." The documents were from a defunct research facility that had operated deep in South America. Pages detailed genetic mapping, wildlife capture logs, and satellite tracking records. Luna wasn't just a random cub lost in the Oregon wild. She was born in captivity. Her mother had been tagged, studied, and then reportedly lost during a transport accident over a decade ago. But here's what chilled Jake the most. One of the files listed an American biologist on the original capture team, Dean Morgan, his father. Jake's vision blurred as he stared at the name. Memories rushed back. His dad's notebooks, the long trips to the Amazon, the half-explained stories about rare cats and wildlife conservation. Jake had never truly understood what his father had been chasing. Now, it was clear, Luna wasn't just connected to Jake by fate. She was connected by blood. Aaron pointed to a scan of a jaguar's DNA strand. They were studying behavioral inheritance, tracking traits like loyalty, intelligence, even emotional bonding across generations. Luna, she's not ordinary. She may carry some of those traits. Some they never got to study because her mother escaped. Jake's mind reeled. All this time, he thought he had saved Luna. But what if she had come to him for a reason? What if she remembered something? Someone? Downstairs, Luna sat quietly, watching her cubs. She turned her head, as if sensing the shift in Jake's heart. He looked at her differently now, not just as a guardian, but as a link to a past he had buried. And out there, in the silence between the trees, someone else knew it too. And they were coming back for what they believed belonged to them. The sky turned a strange shade of gray as the sun began to set behind the hills. Jake stood at the edge of the property, his father's research folder clutched in his hands. For the first time in his life, he understood what Dean Morgan had been chasing. Not just the science, but the soul of something wild. And now that soul lived in Luna and in her cubs. Dr. Aaron had returned earlier that day, truck loaded and ready. The wildlife preserve was prepped. Guards were in place. No press, no officials. Just a secure, isolated stretch of land where Luna and her cubs could live without fear. It was everything Jake wanted for them. But the thought of letting them go twisted his chest in ways he hadn't expected. He packed quietly blankets, food, a few toys for the cubs. Luna followed his every move with solemn eyes, as if she understood what was coming. She didn't fight it. She didn't hide. When Jake opened the back of the truck, she stepped in on her own. One by one, the cubs followed, their tiny paws silent on the metal floor. No growls, no resistance, just trust. Frank showed up unexpectedly, standing near the tree line with a pair of old binoculars around his neck. "Saw the same chopper this morning," he said, circling low. "I'd be surprised if they didn't try something tonight." He handed Jake a slip of paper. Coordinates. This is a trail they don't know about. It'll get you out without being seen, if you leave within the hour. Jake looked back at the house. The old porch swing creaked in the wind. The couch where Daisy used to sleep during the afternoons sat empty. This wasn't just a home anymore. It was a memory, one that would soon belong to the past. He climbed into the truck and turned the key. Luna looked at him through the rearview mirror. Her eyes didn't blink. They just held his gaze. Steady, calm, full of something unspoken. As he pulled away from the house, Jake felt the weight of everything. His father's legacy, the danger they'd faced, the quiet bond formed in silence and trust. They took the back road through the hills, avoiding main roads, headlights off. But a mile into the trail, Aaron's voice came over the radio. "Jake, we've got a problem. You're not alone out there." And in the mirror, a pair of headlights flickered through the trees, growing closer with every second. Jake gripped the steering wheel tighter as the headlights in the rearview mirror grew brighter. The narrow dirt trail twisted through the forest like a forgotten scar, and the truck jolted with every rock and root beneath it. Behind him, Luna growled low, a warning, not of fear, but of readiness. The cubs huddled close to her, quiet, trusting. They didn't know they were in danger. They only knew they were together. Aaron's voice crackled again over the radio. "They're not with the state, Jake. I got confirmation. Private militia, probably after the cubs. Genetics like Luna's. Someone's paying a lot for it." Jake's blood ran cold. He looked in the mirror, not at the road, but at Luna. She met his eyes with quiet fire. She knew. Somehow she always knew. And he realized then, Luna wasn't just trying to protect her babies. She was protecting him, too. Suddenly, the trail opened into a clearing near an old bridge. Half collapsed, barely drivable. Jake slammed the brakes. They were out of time. The second vehicle skidded into view behind them, tires kicking up dirt. Two men stepped out with rifles. Jake got out slowly, hands raised. "She's not yours," he said, voice shaking. "She never was. She's valuable," one of them replied. "We can take her in alive. Or not. That part's up to you." Before Jake could speak, Luna stepped out of the truck. No roar, no attack, just calm, powerful steps across the dirt. She stood between Jake and the armed men, eyes locked on them, her body low, protective. The cubs peeked from the truck, but stayed still. For a moment it was silent, tense. Time stopped, then a sound, distant but rising, a second truck. Aaron. Reinforcements from the preserve. The men saw it too. One cursed. "Not worth it," he muttered. "We'll find another." They backed away, slowly, disappearing into the woods just as quickly as they had come. Jake dropped to his knees, breath catching. It was over. Hours later, Luna and the cubs stepped into the preserve. Acres of protected forest, wild and untouched. Jake walked beside her to the gates, stopping just short of crossing the threshold. She turned to him, brushed her head against his chest one last time, and then, without a sound, led her cubs into the trees. He watched until her golden fur disappeared behind the leaves. Back home, the couch sat empty, quiet, but in his heart, Jake carried every step of the journey. He hadn't saved Luna. She had saved him,